describe it as a foundational sense of puzzlement and incompleteness in the story that we are taught about our past, which envisages more or less, there have been a few ups and downs, but more or less straightforward evolutionary progress.
The Sphinx and the Great Pyramids, and what you find most mysterious and interesting about them?
Well, first of all, the astronomy. And here I must pay tribute to two individuals, actually three individuals in particular.
For more than 2,000 years, one of the most extraordinary structures ever described has hovered between history and legend. Ancient writers spoke of it with awe, insisting it surpassed even the pyramids in scale and complexity. Later generations dismissed it as exaggeration, a myth born from poetic imagination. Yet beneath the sands of Egypt's Fayum region, evidence continues to suggest that the legendary labyrinth of Hawara was not only real, but far larger and far older than anyone was prepared to accept. Near the ruins of the pyramid of Pharaoh Amenemhat III, ancient historians described a monument so vast that it defied comparison. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, claimed he had seen it with his own eyes. He described 12 great courts surrounded by more than 3,000 rooms, half above ground and half below, all connected by corridors so complex that visitors could easily lose their way. He stated plainly that impressive as the pyramids were, the labyrinth surpassed them. Centuries later, the geographer Strabo confirmed these accounts. He wrote of ceilings formed from single slabs of stone, so massive that their placement seemed impossible. He described an overwhelming architectural experience, where one hall led endlessly into another, creating a sense of being consumed by the structure itself. Pliny the Elder went even further, calling the labyrinth the oldest and greatest monument in Egypt. And then it vanished. Over time, the desert reclaimed the site. Stone was quarried and reused by later civilizations. Rising groundwater from nearby canals flooded whatever lay below. What remained visible at the surface appeared unimpressive, little more than scattered debris near a weathered pyramid. By the 19th century, most scholars concluded the labyrinth had never existed as described. It was written off as myth. One man disagreed. In 1888, British archaeologist Flinders Petrie arrived at Hawara, however, determined to test the ancient accounts. What he found immediately challenged the prevailing skepticism. Beneath the sand, Petrie uncovered massive stone foundations stretching hundreds of feet in every direction. He measured the footprint at nearly 1,000 by 800 feet, an area comparable to multiple modern stadiums. He discovered statues of Amenemhat III and Sobek, the crocodile god, along with mummified crocodiles, confirming the site's religious significance. Petrie concluded that the ancient writers had not exaggerated. The labyrinth had been real, but he also realized why it had never been fully explored. The ground beneath Hawara was saturated with water. Any lower chambers described by Herodotus were completely submerged and unreachable with the tools of his time. Petrie suspected that what he uncovered was only the uppermost layer of something far deeper. For more than a century, that suspicion remained untested. In 2008, a Belgian-Egyptian research team known as the Mataha Expedition returned to Hawara with ground-penetrating radar. Their goal was to look beneath the surface without excavation. What the radar revealed was startling. Beneath the sand lay geometric patterns, straight lines, right angles, and repeating grids extending well beyond Petrie's excavation boundaries. The shapes were unmistakably architectural. The dimensions matched both Petrie's measurements and the descriptions left by ancient writers. The data suggested that the stone foundations Petrie found were not the base of the labyrinth, but its roof. Beneath them lay a vast underground complex. Under normal circumstances, such a discovery would have transformed Egyptology overnight. Instead, the findings were quietly suppressed. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities intervened, citing the need for further verification. The researchers were instructed not to release their data. For years, the results remained inaccessible. Eventually, portions of the radar data surfaced online. They showed a labyrinthine network of stone chambers buried 8 to 12 meters below the surface, exactly where ancient sources placed the lower levels. But the most unsettling fact was what could not be explored. Flooded and sealed, the deeper chambers remained untouched, their contents unknown. For researchers like Graham Hancock, this was not just an archaeological discovery. It was confirmation of a pattern he had argued for decades: that human history contains missing chapters, erased not by time alone, but by resistance to ideas that disrupt established timelines. As years passed, new technology extended the search even deeper. Satellite-based imaging systems capable of penetrating the Earth's surface revealed additional layers beneath Hawara. Independent analysts identified multiple underground levels stacked one above another, some nearly 40 meters below ground. These levels contained massive halls, corridors, and open spaces, some comparable in size to Olympic swimming pools. Altogether, the underground complex appeared to span an area larger than 80 football fields. Material signatures indicated dense stone, possibly granite or quartzite, not mud brick. Whatever lay beneath Hawara was built for permanence. One anomaly stood out. At the center of the buried complex, satellite data detected an object approximately 40 meters long, emitting a strong metallic signal. Its shape and composition did not match anything known from ancient Egyptian architecture. Speculation ranged from a collapsed structural element to something far older and more advanced. No explanation satisfied all the data. To skeptics, these findings were misinterpretations. To others, they suggested that the labyrinth was not merely an Egyptian monument, but a relic built atop something much older. The slight misalignment between the labyrinth and the nearby pyramid raised further questions. It suggested different construction phases, possibly separated by thousands of years. For Graham Hancock, the implications were profound. He has long argued that Earth has experienced repeated civilizational resets, driven by catastrophic climate shifts at the end of the last ice age. Rising seas, massive floods, and environmental collapse would have erased advanced societies, leaving behind only fragments. In this view, the labyrinth of Hawara may be one of the few surviving structures from such a forgotten era. But Hancock's concern extends beyond the past. Today, the labyrinth faces a new threat. Rising groundwater, driven by modern irrigation and canal systems, is slowly dissolving the stone below Hawara. Saltwater intrusion has already damaged sections Petrie uncovered more than a century ago. Each year without intervention means more of the underground complex is lost forever. Proposed solutions exist. Engineers have suggested groundwater pumping systems, underground retaining walls, and controlled excavation. But funding is limited, approvals are slow, and bureaucratic hesitation persists. While debate continues, the labyrinth continues to decay unseen. For Hancock, this mirrors a deeper problem. He argues that humanity consistently fails to recognize warnings from its own past. Civilizations rise, reach extraordinary levels of knowledge, and then collapse, often through environmental mismanagement and denial. The labyrinth, in his view, is not just a ruin, it is a message. If the lower chambers are ever opened, they may contain royal tombs, sealed archives, or inscriptions that challenge the accepted chronology of civilization itself. They may show that advanced knowledge existed long before dynastic Egypt, inherited rather than invented, or they may reveal something more mundane, yet no less important, proof of how much history has been lost to neglect. For now, the labyrinth remains sealed beneath sand and water, its corridors silent. Radar images and satellite scans offer glimpses, but no certainty. What lies below Hawara is still hidden, not because it does not exist, but because it has not been allowed to speak. The question is no longer whether the labyrinth was real. The evidence suggests that it was. The question now is whether it will be preserved long enough for us to learn what it was trying to tell us.